the 30th match of the T20 World Cup 24, where host America will be taking on Ireland at the Central Borrowed Regional Park Stadium turf ground in Florida. But before we dive into today's anticipated match, let's recap yesterday's thrilling encounter between Bangladesh. They kind of faced off against the Netherlands, setting a target of 159 runs. Despite a valiant effort, the Netherlands fell short, scoring only 134 runs, handing Bangladesh a 25-run victory. In the other match, England, completely demolished the Minnows, a historic win against Oman. Oman struggled against England's formidable bowling, managing only 47 runs. England chased down the target in just three overs and one ball, achieving the largest victory margin with 101 balls remaining in the T20 World Cup history. Earlier in the morning, Afghanistan dominated Papua New Guinea to secure their spot in the Super 8, knocking New Zealand out of the tournament in a surprising turn of events. All right, I'm joined by three of the eminent panelists that I have. Someone who's a brilliant brand ambassador of the Associate Nations. He's played for Kenya in the 2011 World Cup in India. He's an Indian, a Mumbaikar boy, a good friend of Rohit Sharma and Saurabh Netravalkar. Tanmay Mishra, welcome to the show, Tanmay.
Thank you, Sunil sir.
Tanmay, this is an absolutely different thing that we are seeing. I mean, Associate Nations are knocking off big teams. Are you surprised?
I am not surprised, but it's heartening to see the growth with associate teams. I was a bit surprised with the margin that Afghanistan beat New Zealand, but there was never a doubt in these conditions that are there in West Indies that favor the subcontinental teams and the lot of subcontinental players who migrated from South Asia or Asia to other teams. So it's good to see. It's another opportunity for us, to sort of appeal to the bigger nations that we are available for fixtures if need be.
Well, that's an interesting observation you make. Also, I'm joined by Noel David, the former Indian international player, and Paul Dinette, the podcaster, the commentator, and everyone loves his tweets. I'd like to welcome Paul Dinette. Paul, what's the banter going on with your tweet as an American? I mean, it was viral last night. What was it?
Yeah, it was. G'day, Sunil. G'day, everyone. Probably not my smartest moment, but I was pulling up for a coffee and I just saw the way that an American had reported the score after one of the first World Cup games, like a basketball score. I thought it would be funny to put on what I thought was a really bad American accent and say that, oh, wow, America almost beat India. They only lost by 1. They almost forced it into overtime. And just assuming that everyone would say, yeah, good effort, mate, good American accent. But I have been inundated by thousands of people teaching me the rules of cricket all over social media. So it's been one of the more amusing days of my life, saying, who's going to tell this guy that that's not how cricket works? But it's good to see the Americans are interested. And I've had to say, well, actually, it's not quite what it might seem.
Paul, but what was the last count of your social media views of that video that you created?
Somewhere approaching 500,000, I think, and probably about 2,000 comments telling me that I am very, very ignorant and very, very stupid.
Absolutely. Well, we critics love to have a quick laugh on ourselves as well. But isn't this the case that US is actually, ironically, is just slated to be in the top 8? Do you think so?
Well, there's every chance. And I mean, I know it's an Indian show, and so people from India will be very happy if that's the case. But even so, with nothing against Pakistan, I think it would be really exciting if the United States could make it through. Because as much as I made that joking video, I think all cricket fans do get excited by the prospect of Americans actually being interested in cricket. They are still the world's biggest market, and if they could get a little bit more interested in cricket, it would be really cool.
Well, Paul, very interesting thing, and we go back to Noel David. Noel, 4 teams have qualified for the Super 8, Australia, South Africa, India and West Indies. US is just lurking there. Now, what's your assessment of this overall new teams coming up, springing up a surprise and defeating Pakistan? Your views?
Well, no, it's really superb to see this associate members, first of all, giving surprises to huge superior teams. And second thing is, if US makes it to the Super 8, I think that will create an history. It will not only create a history, but it will also help other teams from associate members, to get into that system of, getting qualified, playing. And overall, they get an opportunity to play other teams also. And it will help them financially. First of all, ICC will recognize such teams, sponsor them. I know bilateral series should happen so that, the associations will be benefited from all this. And what is the key important thing of qualification of these teams are that associate members, when they qualify, it gives that joy because, they come from different backgrounds, especially if you take US or you take Canada or Netherlands. There are different cultures taking, participate in these tournaments. And important is that they are working as laborers. They are working at this. They make the way to play the game of cricket. And when they play and they qualify, it gives me happiness also because I was a part of the system in Ireland also. So I think it's nice to see, if with the superior team, the two teams from associate qualifiers. I was speaking to Tanmay also, and he also said it would be nice to see two teams qualify from the associate members.
Well, two teams qualify. Isn't US the Kenya of 2003 World Cup? Tanmay?
I think, I think that's a compliment a bit too far because Kenya is the only associate team nation that has reached semi-finals in a World Cup.
Yes, 2003.
Despite that, we were never, looked at as a test team playing nations. There have been teams that have, I'm not going to say done far less. They have made progress and they deserve where they are. Teams like Afghanistan and Ireland, and I'm very happy for them. But up until now, no associate team has played semi-finals. So I hope, in this year we can see that. And hopefully, we can see a lot more ICC, giving progress to these teams, whereby pushing them to get test status. An advantage, because we are talking about USA so much, an advantage USA has geographically is because they're very close to USA. Now, we're very close to West Indies. What happens in England, whenever a team tours England, they either play Scotland or Ireland before they play England. It's been the sort of norm in the last 7-8 years. Something that, other test team nations can do if associate team nations play well this tournament like they have. Whereby South Africa, West Indies, India, Australia, whenever they're, they're playing in that part of the world, they can give a few fixtures to USA as well. So I'm all for it, and it's exciting for once to be an associate and have my chest out and speak with a bit of tone because the way we've played this tournament so far.
Absolutely. Paul Dennett, an interesting stat. Two big teams, New Zealand and Sri Lanka, are out of the World Cup. New Zealand knocked out from the group stage for the first time ever. In 2007, they were the semi-finalists, and they've made it to the Super 8 ever since, and this is the first time they're out in the group stages. Is it warning signs for big teams not to take the associate members lightly?
Yeah, definitely. And New Zealand got an absolute thrashing from Afghanistan, and seeing Afghanistan into the Super 8, I think is especially exciting because in recent tournaments they've shown great signs. And it seems like this could be the real tournament where they really break through. And I would not at all be surprised if they made it through to the semi-finals. And the passion of the fans is extraordinary. Anytime I put anything out on social media mentioning Afghanistan, I get a huge response. And it's really gratifying to see how much cricket has captured the imagination of the population of that country. It's a real success story. So I hope to see them really perform well in the Super 8s.
Absolutely. Well, we take a short commercial break and we'll be back after that talking about today's match, weather and everything surrounding it. Well, you're watching Cricit Predicta, the daily World Cup show on NewsX. All eyes are on the weather and the field today as America fights to secure its place in the next stage of the tournament. Well, we are joined by Paul Dinette, the podcaster from Australia, very well-known personality on Twitter. We're also joined by Noel David, the former Indian international player, and also Tanmay Mishra, the brand ambassador for the associate members, who's continuously siding and cheering the associate nations and the victories. Well, I'm going to start off again with Tanmay Mishra. Tanmay, your friend seems to be doing a lot of magic, especially we are talking about Saurabh Netravalkar. I mean, he carries his stuff with him. There's a little quote from his sister who says that he carries his laptop wherever and even in the hotel, and he starts doing his work after practice and on off days. I mean, what is it that goes into the mind of an associate member that, hey, you're playing the World Cup, but at the same time, don't take your career lightly? Your views?
I think you've answered the question really well. You know, a lot of people move for opportunities to different countries, and he's a humble guy. He's really is. You know, if you speak to him, even if you're having a cricket chat and you somewhere drag him off to another conversation, you tend to see how intelligent he is. And even if you interview him today, he will openly and blatantly say that my first livelihood is working as an engineer, you know, despite having the sort of success he's had. So, you know, these are the things, you know, these are the stories that inspire you. You know, we've said it time and time again that you can be good at two things. And, you know, he's someone that takes great interest in what he does. That is him working in the US for his, I think, Oracle or company. Yeah. So he's not going to change that. And every time you speak to him, I sent him a message after he did what he did against India. And he replied by saying, thank you so much. You know, it's just God's grace. So you can see the humbleness in that, and inspiring as it is. I hope, you know, this tournament and specifically US players, what they've done, it's going to inspire a lot of other players to think, if they're not getting the right sort of opportunity in their respective nations, to, you know, try something new and try something new somewhere else.
Paul Dinette, this particular tournament is marred by few weather glitches. Now, if I were to ask you, I mean, let's take a step back and understand that the venues and the entire scheduling is done by ICC. Now, let me draw some figure for you and ask you a very pointed question. In 2022, the World Cup in Australia, 7 matches were affected due to rain. 21 T20 World Cup in UAE, of course, you don't get any rains. In 2016, World Cup in India, in March and April, 3 matches were affected due to rain, and in 2014, in Bangladesh, 3 matches were affected. Now, the ICC has a head and an expert in every department. Don't you think so? It's time that they should schedule by keeping a weatherman in their team? Paul Dinette.
Well, one of the challenges, I think, is that different countries are a bit unpredictable. There are parts of the world where you don't get rain at certain times of the year. In Australia, in Perth, in summer, it never rains. But where I'm from in Sydney, the rain is roughly equal throughout the whole year. So you've either got to say, well, we're never going to schedule big international cricket matches in those places, or just accept that, well, the game was invented in England, and if there's ever going to be rain, that's where it's going to be. Or maybe we should start building some stadiums with roofs on them. That's been my dream. We have got one in Australia, in Melbourne. The home of the Melbourne Renegades has a retractable roof. It would be difficult to apply one. I mean, I was in Delhi recently. It'd be pretty difficult to get a roof onto the Kotla the way that it's shaped. But maybe down the track, that's the answer.
Well, Noel David, what is your view? That shouldn't ICC plan it in such a manner that they should at least take it away from the danger zone of weather? You're a player yourself, yeah.
Yeah, of course. You know, I think events like this should be carefully managed and placed. As you said, there should be someone in the system knowing about all this, especially the guy who knows where it's at this part of time there will be a lot of rains, or where there's going to be a heat. All this should be taken into account because you can't afford to lose big teams out of this tournament. Now, if you have seen, there are few teams because of rains, matches never happened this T20. So I think all this should be considered by ICC. Otherwise, as it goes on in future, big teams will be they start cribbing over things because not qualifying it will become a big scene because and what I like ICC to do is in near future, whatever tournaments they're going to held, which especially the T20 World Cup or the ODIs, I think they need to plan well in advance, look at all possibilities, where can they hold the World Cup without any interruption. That should be the first priority in ICC when it comes to next T20 World Cups.
Well, Noel, thank you on that part. We'd like to also rope in Tanmay here. Tanmay and Paul, of course, after Tanmay is through with this question, this World Cup has witnessed less than 100 scores in the T20 World Cup edition. Now, till now, you've got scores of below 100 on 9 occasions. The earlier highest was 8 in 2014 and 2021. Now, as we progress further, do you think this will be setting up a record, considering that we've just come back from IPL? It had been just a fortnight where you were belting 250, 60, 70, and here we are at 100 and less. Tanmay Mishra.
I don't think so. Part of where the ICC slightly got it wrong, or something that they can review is, whenever you set up a new stadium, you want to test it before you, fully allow it to host international games. Something that the New York wicket we saw. It was a fresh wicket. It was a sort of, quick thinking, quick because of the demand. I don't think so that will happen going forward, because wherever you're going to be playing, those wickets are, ready to play. They've been played on. Something that we didn't see in the New York stadium. It was a fresh wicket. It wasn't really well done. As far as going forward concerns, I don't genuinely see that happening. Cricket has moved forward, especially with the way the skill sets of the players have moved forward. This is just one-off thing that in one particular venue this has happened. It hasn't happened in Dallas. It hasn't happened in maybe Florida, if you look at it, or it hasn't happened in West Indies. It's just one particular venue. So I don't think so we should look into it more, but we should be more observant going forward in the future that if an ICC tournament does occur, that whichever venue is given the right to host isn't not well prepared.
Paul Dinette, does it take away the romance from the T20 World Cup, where you have low scores and less boundaries scored across the ground?
I don't mind a low-scoring game as long as it's because the bowlers are given, a bit of extra bounce or a bit of movement. That's fine. Where I've been disappointed, and as I said the other day, I don't want to be too critical because I think it was a bold strategy to try to get it into New York, and maybe it didn't quite pan out the way that they wanted to. But where it's disappointing is when it's too paced and you've got a situation where batters can't time the ball. Then it becomes frustrating and it loses a bit of quality as a spectacle. I always think T20 World Cup, you probably are on the side of just preparing really good batting tracks. And if the bowlers have to take a little bit of a back seat, then so be it, because we want to showcase the game to as many people as possible. But I think, and as a Sydney sider, I'm not supposed to give credit to my southern neighbour in Melbourne, but I think the Melbourne cricket ground pitch that the India-Pakistan game was played at in the World Cup held in Australia was a really good one, because it did give something for the bowlers early on. There was swing, but because there was bounce and carry, then the batters could play their shots. And I think that's the sort of template for a wicket that we want for the future.
Tanmay, what do you make of the match today between one contender and the other challenger?
I think, Sulusa, I just want to add one point regarding the rain. The thing is, you see Big Bash being played in Australia in peak season,
right,
while Australia international cricket is still happening. The preference isn't just given to Australia cricket team, it's given to their local domestic season as well. You look, when India hosted the World Cup, it happened in their peak domestic season, where domestic season was going on, but ICC took, or the world event took center stage in the peak season where rain wasn't altered. My point is this, that going forward, ICC needs to make sure that when you say it's a world event, it's given that sort of preference. I don't think so in certain nations, whenever they host it, it's given that sort of preference. It's either early, it's early into the summer. All these places, it's very early into the summer where rain happens. The reason why I'm pointing this out is I would today rather see USA beat Ireland to go into qualifying than it rains and then Pakistan is knocked out, because that's extremely harsh on them, extremely harsh on England, just for the general view. As much as we say that associate cricket is doing well, this needs to, this is supposed to be priority concern to ICC, whereby games are not washed off, because that can hurt a team a lot, and then it can end up taking jobs. That's the sort of status, that's the sort of pressure teams work nowadays. If it doesn't go well, you hire and fire coaches, players lose their jobs. So that's the concern I have today. Regarding speaking about the game today, there's already so much talk about the rain taking the center stage. I would like to see USA do it the right way. If there is a game, they win. Instead of, it just boiling down to the fact that it rained off, they got a point. So coming to this game, I'm hoping, as much as, I'm a bit disappointed with the way Ireland has played, but it's down to a bit of luck because they're a very quality side. I've played a lot of cricket against them. I wouldn't take Ireland lightly, especially today, because they're hurting. And the teams that are hurting, they can throw a few punches of their own and spoil the party for USA. So I'd be very concerned, or I would not take Ireland lightly in today's game.
Well, that's an interesting point you make. Paul Dinette, do you think, I'm just picking up from where Tanmay Mishra had left. Tanmay is very clear saying that Ireland had so much of promise, so much of practice, and so much of lineage at the ICC events for long. But somehow they haven't packed in a punch or two, especially in the ICC events. Are you disappointed with the way things have progressed in Ireland?
I think it's definitely been a disappointing World Cup for them so far, but it is only just a few matches. And I mean, that pitch that they hopped against India in New York, I mean, it's hard enough playing India at the best of times. There's such a star-studded lineup, but on that pitch, they were kind of never really going to be in the calculations. They might find Florida more to their liking. And I think Tanmay makes a good point that, and he's probably corrected me as well in my own thinking. I was just thinking, America will probably just win this today. But going into the tournament, if we hadn't seen what we'd seen so far, I think maybe Ireland would have gone into this game as slight favourites. Now I'm sure that's not the case, but maybe freed up, hopefully with a pitch that's a little bit more conducive to the style of play that they want to play Ireland, they might actually be hard to beat today in Florida.
Well, that's your cricket predictor as USA and Ireland are neck to neck. Noel David, what's your final take on the match today?
Well, I would love to see US going through into the Super 8 because the way they played their cricket, they played like champions. They played together. They bowled well. They fielded well. They batted well from the start. And I think they should climb the stairs. It will give them an opportunity in the near future. There'll be a lot of cricket taking place in USA. A lot of people will start taking the game very seriously. So I want USA to get through into the Super 8 and even, see to that they play well in the Super 8 when they play the superior teams better than them.
Well, as we said in the earlier program, which Tanmay didn't approve of, that is USA the Kenya of 2003 World Cup. Well, this was Cricit Predicta, and that's all we had time for. It was all about facts, stats, anecdotes, and contextual data talking about where the game is moving.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.